Hello everyone, welcome to Mythstory, the show where we talk about myths from around the globe. For today's show, we're going to be discussing the religion of many ethnic groups in ancient Central Asia, Mongolian mythology. After the simultaneous conquest of northern India by the Muslims and of northern China by the Mongols under Genghis Khan, the Tibetan Buddhists were forced to turn away from their religious life in India and look towards the Mongolians. Since then, many ancient myths of the Mongols have been lost, and some only exist in fragments. There is one in which the lama, or superior one, creates the earth from water using a rod, and others in which a god separates the heavens and the earth. But since the complete collection of these stories have been lost over time, I chose a more complete Mongol mythology. So let's begin from the beginning. Creation. Long ago, Father Heaven had two sons, Ulgan Tengur and Erlik Khan. Ulgan became the lord of the upper world, and Erlik Khan became the lord of the lower world. At the time, the earth was covered with water. There was no land. Ulgan Tengur asked the loon to bring up mud from below the water to create land. He was not able to do so, and he was punished by having his legs broken so he could not walk. And the golden-eyed duck was called next to bring up land. The duck created a small piece of land that Ulgan was able to lay on. Erlik Khan, seeing that his brother had fallen asleep on the new land, tried to pull the land out from under him, but instead the land stretched out in all directions as he pulled it. Next, Ulgan Tengur created animals and humans out of mud, and he spread them out to dry. He created the dog to keep watch over the bodies of the new humans while he was gone. Erlik Khan, unhappy to see that his brother was creating humans, came to see the new bodies. The dog would not let him come close. At the time, the dog could talk, but had no fur. It was cold and snowing, so Erlik Khan tempted him, saying that if the dog allowed him to see the humans' bodies, he would give him a beautiful fur coat. The dog agreed and was given a shiny, beautiful coat. Erlik Khan then spat on the bodies so that humans would have diseases and not be immortal. When Ulgan returned, he saw that the dog had fur and that the humans had been damaged. So he punished the dog by making his coat smelly, taking away his voice, and by making the dog follow humans in order to get its food. Ulgan and Erlik went on to each have children. Ulgan, who is seen as the creator deity in Mongol mythology, had 7 sons and 9 daughters, while Erlik, the god of death, had 9 sons and 9 daughters. These stories were normally told orally, and many of the ancient texts have been lost, so there is not much more we can know about the stories of the gods. The Iron Hero. The Iron Hero was almost a deity in the Mongol religion. He was not a savior or a god, but rather a warrior of amazing power and ability, similar to Hercules or Maui. His story starts off rather abruptly, with him cutting open his own side and finding a book. He read this book 3 days and 3 nights without stopping. In this book, it was written that there were 7 noble Dongans, or high chiefs, that the eldest of the 7 had a beautiful daughter, whom the Iron Hero was to marry. Before he set out to find this bride, the Iron Hero turned his horse into flint and placed him inside his own stomach. Then he boiled the flesh of 10 sheep in one kettle and made it as small as the flesh of one sheep. He distilled 10 pots of alcohol and redistilled it till one kettle held all, and the liquor had 10 strengths. After that, he put the meat and drink into an iron cart and set out on his journey. He heard ahead the panting, as it were, of 10 men, and the tramp, as it were, of 10 horses. He knew not what to do. He was frightened. But he said to himself, "If a wolf hunts a deer 2 days, he will die of hunger. If a man does not carry out what he plans, he would better perish. If a woman does not sew what she has cut, better that she cut off her fingers. Then he made his breathing as great as the breathing of 10 men, and the noise of his cart as loud as the noise of 10 carts. Soon he met a 25-headed Mongol, an evil spirit upon a horse. When he saw him in front, he added to the speed of his cart, and went so fast that he carried off the bottom of the Mongol's stirrup and twisted up what was left of it. He cut off a part of the Mongol's right cheek and went forward a while, then turned his cart around towards the Mongol, saluted, and asked him, "What place dost thou wish now to ravage and ruin?" "I am going far to the northeast," said the Mongol. "I have heard that Gisser Bogdo has a brother called the Iron Hero. I want to test his strength. While he is young, while his voice is thin, and his bones are soft, I wish greatly to kill him." "Oh, thou wilt not let people come to their age and gain strength. Thou wilt kill and ravage," cried the Iron Hero, and springing from the cart, he gave the Mongol a blow on the forehead. "Oh, it is thou then! Thou art the Iron Hero, going to look for a bride," cried the Mongol, mocking him, and he sprang down from his stallion. The two approached, looking sidewise at each other, like two bulls going to battle. They were as dark as two gloomy clouds. Both were raging. They rushed at each other to wrestle, and soon the ground under them became hills and valleys. The Iron Hero tore all the flesh from the Mongol's back with his fingers, and all of it from his breast with his teeth. At mid-forenoon of the next day, he killed the Mongol, put his head towards the northwest, his feet towards the east, put a mountain on his head and his breast, and another across his feet and legs, leaving a road between by which people might travel. Now the Iron Hero went farther, saw an iron yurta, the top of which touched the sky. He was frightened. He turned the cart into a flint, himself into a skunk, and went toward that iron yurta underground. He ate a hole through the floors, and peeping up, saw 108-headed Mongol, his feet against one wall, his head against another. This Mongol was breathing heavily. Out of one corner of his mouth, a blue flame was quivering. Out of the other corner, a red flame gushed forth. Seeing that the Mongol was sleeping soundly, the Iron Hero crept up and stole his axe, which hung there, made it small, took it away underground, came back, and gnawed through the Mongol's throat quickly. The Mongol sprang up and cried, "Cunning people have robbed me. Sharp arrows have hit me." He stumbled around through the place, could do nothing, lost his senses. Blood flowed from his nostrils, his breathing failed, and life left him. The hero turned the great iron building bottom side upward. He made small trees for elks to eat. For deer he made brush. He made black ravens to croak on the place, and a yellow fox to race around it. He commanded that on fallen snow there should never be tracks in winter, and that grass should not be broken or crushed in the summer, so that everything might be secret, all things lone and deserted. The Iron Hero continued on a series of journeys that would lead him to his bride. He slew Mongols, and, in the process, created hills, valleys, and forests. From Red Mountain, the Iron Hero saw on the edge of the horizon an enormous white yurta, which touched the sky. That was the yurta of his father-in-law. From the mountain he came down to a brass and iron hill, which no foot of a man had ever touched, and he sat down on that hill. Then, by his magic, he made big boils on his neck, and on his back, and on his hands and feet sores, disgusting to look at. He made himself old, sick, and wretched, made his cart worn and battered, and then pushed it ahead toward the yurta till he entered the courtyard. In the middle of that courtyard was a pillar with branches, and on those branches were 96 hitching rings. 7 splendid horses were tied to 7 of those hitching rings. Each horse was of a different color. On the saddle of each were the arms of its rider. The riders of those 7 horses were suitors for the maiden whom the Iron Hero wished to be his wife. The Iron Hero pushed in his cart, put it between 2 of the horses. Going over silver stairs and through golden doors, he entered the yurta as a nasty old man covered with sores. When inside the yurta, he saw the 7 splendid young suitors sitting at a table, and with them sat the bride's father. "A greeting to thee, O my father-in-law," said the old man, tottering in and approaching the Khan. "What father-in-law am I to thee? May thou drop into pieces. The one of the 7 who throws thee out will get my daughter." One of the suitors sprang up to seize the old man and throw him out, but he could not raise him from the floor. The old man was as if fastened down. No one could lift him. "If all of you seized him, you can throw him out," cried the father-in-law. "Some demon has come to me." All 7 took hold of the old man. One grasped a leg, another an arm, but the 7 could not stir him. He pushed them away, hurled them in different directions. One fell in a corner, another under a table, a third into a third place, and soon all 7 of the suitors ran out to the courtyard in frightened confusion, untied their horses, and rode off at a gallop. The old man stood in the yurta for 5 days while the Khan cowered in fear. The old man sensed danger in the near future, so he left the yurta and sat atop a hill in the city square. It was here the old man rested. A few days prior, the Khan had called upon the service of 2 warriors who had just arrived at the yurta when the old man left. The Khan pointed them in the direction of the square, and when they arrived, they woke up the old man, and a 10-day battle began. On the 10th day, the old man began to grow weak, and toward evening he fell to the earth, powerless. The 2 heroes put him in an iron barrel with 95 hoops in it, and rolled him into the black, misty sea. But before he fell into the water, the old man said, "In the place from which I started, there is a promontory. On that promontory is a white cuckoo, as big as a horse's head. Between the bronze and silver square and that promontory are 70 mountain ranges. Along those 70 ranges, 90 mad wolves are prowling. That cuckoo will come with the 90 mad wolves to save me." Then he fainted. Those were his last words. Only when 3 days and nights had passed did the cuckoo and the 90 mad wolves appear on the shore of the black misty sea. The cuckoo flew 3 times along the shore singing loudly, and the whole black misty sea vanished, went into the earth before the power of the cuckoo, and the grass which grew around on every side of the sea dried up and withered at the sight of her. When the sea was almost dry, the iron cask was seen on the bottom. The 90 mad wolves rushed at the cask and gnawed its 95 hoops off. When the hoops were gone, the cask fell apart, and they found the skeleton of the Iron Hero. The wolves took the skeleton up carefully and carried it to the cuckoo at the seashore. The cuckoo began to sing, began at the Iron Hero's feet. When she reached his head the first time, flesh began to come on his bones. The second time, he almost breathed. When he reached his head the third time, he sprang up. "How long have I slept?" cried he. Then he remembered what had happened. He washed and thanked the cuckoo and the 90 mad wolves. He was in the same form as before, a wretched old man with sores on his body. "Why art thou so foolish?" asked the cuckoo. "Why not go to the Khan in thy real form?" "If I went in youth as I am, the Khan would give me hard tasks to do, tasks which might kill me. It is better to act in this way. My bride knows all that I am doing." Then he said to the wolves and the cuckoo, "Ye has served me well. Good thanks to you. Go home now in peace." The wolves dragged the cart from the bottom of the sea. The sea took its old form, and grass appeared again along the shore. The Iron Hero went a second time to the Khan for his beautiful daughter, but in a worse form than before. There was a wedding that day at the yurta. The Khan was giving his daughter in marriage to the younger of the 2 strong heroes who had put the old man in the iron barrel and rolled him into the black misty sea to stay there. When the 2 heroes saw the old man coming, they rushed out, mounted their steeds, and rode away swiftly. They had thought never to see the old man again. Now they felt sure that they would never get rid of him. The Khan was once again terrified by the old man and called for the help of Mylan Bu, an immensely strong hero, and wrote to him to come quickly, that some terrible wizard in the form of an old man was tormenting him greatly, that no one yet had been able to conquer him. "If thou conquer him," wrote the Khan, "thou wilt have my daughter." The hero arrived 9 days later. When the old man heard of his coming, he went back to the square just as before and fell asleep. When Mythstory found him, the old man was awakened and a fight began, but surprisingly, they were evenly matched. The Burkans, or the gods, looked down on the fight and revealed to the two that they were in fact brothers, and the Iron Hero was the youngest. The old man changed back into his original form of the Iron Hero, and the two brothers rode back to the Khan's yurta. When they arrived at the yurta, Mythstory said to the Khan, "That old man was a terrible sorcerer. He had immense magic power. I was not able to conquer him alone, so I summoned from northern regions my brother, this Iron Hero. He helped me. We conquered the sorcerer and finished him. Thou wilt never see that old man again. I am married, so give thy daughter to my youngest brother, this Iron Hero here." The Khan consented, and the Iron Hero married the Khan's daughter. Sharao. Once there was a young man by the name of Sharao. He became restless, and one day told his mother that if he had a small sum of money, he would go out into the world and make a great deal more. His mother gave him what he asked for, and he started out to begin life. On the road, he met an old man with a cat under his arm. "Where are you going with that cat?" asked the young man. "I am taking it away to kill it," replied the man, "for it fights my dog and scratches him." "Don't kill the cat, sell him to me," said Sharao. "Very well, but what will you give me for him?" "Will you take 100 rubles?" The man could hardly hide his joy, but said yes, very grudgingly, and gave the foolish young man a cat. Then, as he had no money, Sharao started towards home. But he had not gone far when the cat sprang out of his arms and ran away. When he reached home, his mother asked, "What have you done with your money?" "I have bought a fine storehouse full of grain," replied the young man. "If I had 100 rubles more, I could do it as well again." His mother gave him the 100 rubles, and he started out with the intention of being very wise this time. When only a short distance from his mother's yurta, he met a man with a dog. "Where are you taking that dog?" asked the young man. "I am taking him out to kill him," replied the man. "He fights my cat and takes her food from her. I have no peace." "Do not kill the dog. Sell him to me. I will give you all the money I have." He was afraid that the 100 rubles would not be enough to buy the dog, for he had paid that much for a cat. "I will give you 100 rubles for him." The man was glad to part with the worthless hound for such a big sum of money, and the young man started toward home. But the dog bit and jumped and pulled so badly at the leash that at last Sharao lost his patience and turned him loose. The dog ran away at once. When the young man got home, his mother asked what he had done with his money. "I bought much fine grain," replied he. "Now I wish to marry. In a kingdom not far away lives Sazrai Khan. He has a daughter, Sarungohung. I would like to marry her." The mother went to the Khan and asked that their children be married. The Khan scolded her and the boy's father after claiming that they were just peasants and he was a Khan. There was no way their children would marry. He said the only way that would happen would be if Sharao built a silver bridge from their yurta to his palace. If not, he would have his head cut off. Sharao, afraid of the consequences, ran off into the forest. In this forest, he met the dog whose life he had saved. "Oh dog!" cried Sharao, "I saved your life. Now please help me. I must build a bridge of silver for Sazrai Khan, and I know not how to do it, for I am a poor man." "Take this ring," said the dog. "Go home, look at the sun, make 3 circles with your hand, and say while turning around, 'Let a bridge of silver be built tonight from my yurta to that of Sazrai Khan.'" This the young man did, and when he woke the next morning, there was the silver bridge. He went to it, took an axe, and began to work, as though he were just finishing a difficult task. The Khan came to look at the bridge, was much surprised, but only said, Why are you so long at work? Were not all the hours of the night sufficient?" "I have built it in one night," said Shadao. "If any man can build it in a shorter time, he may have my claim to your daughter." "We will have the wedding in 7 days," said the Khan. After the wedding, the Khan's daughter went to live with her husband, but she grew dissatisfied and complained bitterly. She was curious about how he could build such a bridge in one night, yet live in an old, decrepit yurta. He finally told her about the ring and its power. She suggested that she hold on to the ring for safekeeping. Little did he know, she had a star-crossed lover across the sea. In the early morning, before Shadao was awake, she took the ring to zap herself to her love. When Shadao realized what had happened, he went to the Khan and asked him what he was going to do about it. The Khan was convinced that if she was not with Shadao, she must be dead. So he threw him in prison and told Shadao that if she had not returned in 7 days, he would cut off his head. While in captivity, the cat that he had once saved passed by a window and offered help. The plan was for the cat and dog to go across the sea and retrieve the ring. They eventually get the ring and bring it to Shadao, who zaps himself out of prison and into the Khan's yurta. Once again, the Khan wants to see proof his daughter is alive and with another man, or it would be off with Shadao's head. Shadao uses the ring and wishes her and her partner to appear in the yurta. Once they appear, the Khan says to Shadao, "I will do to them what I was going to do to you," and then chops off their heads. Stories in Mongolian mythology can either come to a heartwarming conclusion or a bitter end, but no matter what, the end will always surprise you. Thanks for watching this episode of Mythstory on Mongolian mythology. Make sure to like and subscribe, and tell us what mythology you want us to cover next in the comments below. And if you really love us, consider supporting us on Patreon. We'll see you next time.